When the police knocked on my door after my best friend went missing, I thought they were there to tell me she was dead. What they said was so much worse. I texted Brianna 3 times on Tuesday, and she didn't respond. By Wednesday morning, I drove to her apartment and knocked on the door. Her landlord answered, "Can I help you?" I told them I was looking for Brianna. They said she'd moved out yesterday, took everything and left. I tried calling her, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I went home completely confused. We just made plans to go hiking that weekend. On Thursday morning, there was a knock at my door. 2 detectives stood on my porch. "We need to ask you some questions about a recent death." My heart dropped. I thought they were going to tell me Brianna was dead. Instead, one of them pulled out a photo of a man I'd never seen before. "Do you know this person?" I shook my head. "No, I've never seen him in my life." They exchanged a look. "Can we come in?" We sat in my living room. One of the detectives leaned forward. "This man was found dead in his apartment 2 days ago. We found your fingerprints on a kitchen knife at the scene. Your hair was on his couch. Your gym membership card was in his bedroom." I couldn't breathe. "That's impossible. I don't know him. I've never been to his apartment." They asked where I was Monday night. I said I was home alone watching TV and had no way to prove it. Then they asked if anyone had access to my belongings. I told them about Brianna and said she'd been missing since Tuesday. They took her name and information, told me not to leave town, and left. I tried calling her again, still off. I drove to the office building where she said she worked as an accountant. "I'm looking for Brianna Hayes," I told the receptionist. She frowned. "We don't have anyone by that name here." I insisted. I'd picked her up from that building before. She checked again. "I'm sorry, there's no one by that name in our system." I sat in my car, trying to make sense of it all. That night, I went through my apartment to see if anything was missing. My spare key was gone. A coffee mug I never used was missing from the cabinet. The scarf I wore to a wedding last year wasn't in my closet. The next morning, the detectives came back. "We have more evidence." They showed me crime scene photos. My scarf was on the couch. The missing mug was in the sink with my lipstick on the rim. A receipt with my signature was in the trash. "I didn't put any of those things there," I said, shaking. "Someone is setting me up." They asked about Brianna again. I gave them her number and address. An hour later, they returned. "The phone number's disconnected. The address you gave us is an empty apartment. There's no record of a Brianna Hayes anywhere. No ID, no social security, no job history." "Are you sure that's her real name?" I showed them photos of us on my phone. They sent them to themselves and said, "We'll need you to come to the station for further questioning." I called a lawyer right away. Over the next 2 days, everything unraveled. Brianna's job didn't exist. The grad school she mentioned had no record of her. The sister I'd met once was an actress she'd hired. Even the coffee shop where we met had security footage showing she'd followed me there. My lawyer got access to her apartment and found a hidden box in the closet. Inside were copies of my house key, strands of my hair in a plastic bag, one of my old credit cards, and a notebook. I read it at the station while my lawyer and the detectives watched. It was filled with notes about me, my daily routine where I kept my spare key, how she'd collected my fingerprints and DNA, and details about the victim, labeled ex-boyfriend, restraining order, perfect target. The last entry was dated a week ago. "Everything is in place. She'll take the fall, new identity ready. Leaving Tuesday," I looked up at the detectives. "Her real name isn't Brianna Hayes. She spent a whole year pretending to be my friend just to frame me for her ex-boyfriend's murder." One detective flipped through the notebook. The other studied the items from the box. My lawyer placed a steady hand on my shoulder. I watched their faces, trying to tell if they believed me, or if I was about to be arrested for a crime I didn't commit. Detective Williams set the notebook down and leaned back. "Anything else you can tell us about her or the victim?" I shook my head, still feeling the weight of everything she'd done. My entire friendship had been a lie. Every coffee, every movie night, every conversation was just research for her plan. Cassandra, my lawyer, placed her hand on my arm and told the detectives she needed a moment alone with her client. They left, the door clicking shut behind them. She turned to me, serious. "The notebook helps us," she said, "but physical evidence carries a lot of weight with juries." My fingerprints on that knife, my hair on the couch, my belongings scattered through his apartment. Together they painted a picture that would be hard to fight. We needed more than just the notebook to prove I'd been framed. We needed to find Brianna herself. The detectives came back after 15 minutes. Rodriguez pulled out a chair and sat across from me. She'd been quiet during most of the earlier questioning, but now her tone was focused, deliberate. She wanted to know exactly how Brianna had collected my DNA and personal items. I walked her through everything I could remember. Brianna used to insist on washing the glasses after I drank from them at her apartment, saying she was particular about her dishwasher. She'd borrowed my scarf one cold January afternoon, claiming she'd forgotten hers. Over time, little things disappeared. Items I barely noticed were missing. A coffee mug from the back of my cabinet. My spare house key I thought I'd misplaced. An old credit card I assumed I'd thrown out. Rodriguez wrote down every detail while Williams watched me closely. They spent another hour going over my statement before Williams said they'd be taking the notebook and the evidence box into official custody. He made copies of everything first and handed me a manila envelope containing duplicates of the photos and pages. Williams admitted this was the most elaborate frame-up attempt he'd seen in 20 years on the force. But he warned me that didn't mean the district attorney would believe it. Without finding Brianna and proving she was real, the physical evidence against me was still damning. They told me I could leave but to stay available for further questioning. Cassandra drove me to Katie's apartment because I couldn't bring myself to go home. Every corner of my place was soaked in Brianna's lies. The couch where we'd watched movies, the kitchen table where we'd shared takeout, the spare bedroom where she'd slept, probably going through my things while I slept. Katie opened the door and took one look at me. She didn't ask anything, just pulled me into a hug. That's when I finally broke down. I'd held it together through the interviews, the evidence, the lawyers. But standing there in my friend's doorway in the arms of someone real, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Over the next 2 days, Cassandra hired a private investigator named Justin. She said he specialized in finding people living under fake identities. Justin arrived at her office on Saturday morning, laptop bag in hand, his expression sharp and focused. He was around 40, with gray at his temples and the calm confidence of someone who knew his job. Cassandra had already sent him Brianna's photos. He set up his laptop on the conference table and started running facial recognition searches. As he worked, he explained that most people left digital footprints somewhere. Social media, security cameras, ID photos, passport scans. The challenge was finding the right trail and having access to follow it. Whoever Brianna really was, she was good at hiding. But everyone slipped up eventually. Justin said he was focusing on the actress who'd pretended to be her sister. That was a thread we could pull. The actress had to be connected somehow, a talent agency, a payment record, something. Justin had contacts in the entertainment world and started digging through casting databases to trace her. On Monday afternoon, Detective Rodriguez called me. They'd obtained 6 months of security footage from my apartment building. The videos showed Brianna leaving my place late at night, always carrying a bag, and returning hours later without it. The timestamps lined up perfectly with when she must have been visiting the victim's apartment to plant my belongings and DNA. Rodriguez said they were building a timeline showing exactly when each piece of evidence appeared at the crime scene. The victim's neighbor had reported seeing a blonde woman matching Brianna's fake appearance entering his apartment several times in the weeks before his death. The forensics team was re-examining everything. Now a man named Neil, a forensics specialist with 20 years of experience, led the analysis of the fingerprints. That same day, he called Rodriguez with his findings. The print pattern on the knife suggested it had been pressed into my hand while I was unconscious or sleeping. The pressure points were wrong for someone actually gripping a knife. The angle showed it had been held against my palm, not naturally grasped. Neil was ready to testify that the prints had been planted, not left through normal use. That afternoon, Cassandra filed a motion to prevent my arrest while the investigation continued. She argued that I was cooperating fully with the police and that the real suspect was still out there. The evidence of the frame-up created enough reasonable doubt to delay my arrest. The judge held a hearing the next morning. I sat in court wearing the same clothes from the past 3 days. I still couldn't face going home. The prosecutor argued I was a flight risk, but Cassandra countered with the notebook and Neil's fingerprint analysis. After reading for 10 tense minutes, the judge ruled I wouldn't be arrested, but ordered me to surrender my passport. They fitted an ankle monitor on me right there in court. I was free, but only within a 10-mile radius of Katie's apartment. The next day, Justin called. He tracked down the actress through a talent agency and was going to meet her. 2 hours later, he told me she'd nearly slammed the door in his face, but agreed to talk after learning I'd been charged with murder. She thought the job was for a prank reality show. A woman had paid her $5,000 in cash to play a sister for one meeting. She was horrified when Justin told her the truth and promised to give a full statement to police. At the station, I waited with Detective Williams and Katie while the actress described the woman who'd hired her. A sketch artist drew a face I didn't recognize, dark hair, glasses, sharp features. Nothing like the blonde, smiling Brianna I'd known. The actress said she might have used a fake accent, something vaguely European. Staring at that drawing, I realized the person I'd trusted for a year had never really existed. 3 days later, Rodriguez called. A forensic accountant traced the actress's payment to prepaid debit cards bought across 3 states. Whoever Brianna really was, she'd been planning this for at least 18 months. Moving money, hiding her trail, preparing to ruin my life. Katie took leave from work to stay with me. I jumped at every noise, checked the locks constantly, and woke from nightmares about being in prison. Katie never complained. She cooked, answered calls, sat beside me through it all. One night when I apologized for being a mess, she just said, "This is what real friends do, they stay." For the first time, I understood what genuine friendship actually looked like. Brianna had taught me to doubt everyone's motives, but Katie was proving that real friends still existed. Then Neil called Detective Williams with new findings from my apartment. His team had returned for another search after the sketch revealed Brianna's real face. They found tiny carpet fibers near my dresser that matched the victim's apartment. Neil explained that Brianna must have walked through the crime scene after killing him, then come to my place, tracking those fibers in on her shoes while planting more evidence. The idea that she'd been in my bedroom, maybe while I slept, made my skin crawl. She'd touched my things with a dead man's blood still on her. Meanwhile, Justin discovered how Brianna had rented her apartment. She'd done everything remotely. Emails only, rent paid 6 months up front with a cashier's check mailed from another state. Utilities set up through prepaid cards. Even the furniture was delivered and assembled by people who never saw her. She'd built an entire fake life that existed only online. The landlord felt awful, but the money had blinded him. 2 weeks after the police first came to my door, Rodriguez called me back to the station. 2 other women had come forward after seeing the news, both with eerily similar stories. A friend had borrowed items, disappeared suddenly, and left them missing things like hairbrushes, jewelry, or house keys. Reading their statements felt like seeing prototypes of what Brianna did to me. Detective Williams held a meeting with me, Cassandra, and Justin. He said Brianna had likely done this before, maybe several times over the years, and I was just the first case that ended in murder. He contacted the FBI since Brianna had crossed state lines and committed identity fraud. 2 days later, Agent Gerard arrived with 3 case files from other states. Each told the same story. Women befriended under false identities, personal items stolen, access gained, and sudden disappearances. The details changed, different hair colors, different names, but the pattern was identical, careful planning. Trust built over months. Then she vanished, leaving chaos behind. Each victim described a sudden disappearance followed by theft, missing keys, and signs someone had been in their homes. He said Brianna was likely a professional con artist who'd been doing this for years, and framing me for murder was her most dangerous move yet. The files showed the same pattern everywhere, in Michigan, Oregon, and Texas. Each woman had met a new friend, who slowly earned trust, learned routines, borrowed keys, collected personal items, and then vanished, stealing identities and valuables. Gerard said it was too specific to be coincidence. It had to be one person, escalating with each crime. 3 days later, Cassandra presented all the evidence to the district attorney. Brianna's fake identity, Gerard's federal findings, and the pattern of past victims. The DA hesitated, saying juries trusted physical evidence more than theories, but finally agreed to delay charges until the full investigation finished. It gave us time to find more proof. That same day, Justin found something crucial. The murder victim had reported a stalker ex-girlfriend months before his death. She used fake names, changed phone numbers, and matched the sketch of the real Brianna. He'd even tried to get a restraining order against her, writing that he feared she was capable of violence. But the request was denied because Victoria Johns didn't exist. The victim had been trying to escape Brianna for over a year, filing reports, moving apartments, and seeking protection. But she always found him. Detective Williams said she'd likely planned the murder for months and needed someone like me to frame so she could vanish cleanly. Gerard called me in for a full interview. recording every detail of my friendship with Brianna. He wanted a complete record of her methods to help identify future victims. I told him everything, how we met at the coffee shop, how natural she made everything seem, and how she slowly gained my trust. I never knew about her ex or any violent past. Every detail she'd told me was a lie. Gerard said my story would become part of a federal investigation into a serial criminal. The next day, Katie helped me build a timeline from my texts and photos with Brianna. It showed how calculated she'd been, asking about my schedule, getting my spare key by offering to water my plants, and collecting my personal details under innocent pretenses. She'd chosen me because I lived alone and had a predictable routine. Then Neil called with forensic results from Brianna's hidden box. The evidence showed she'd collected my hair and fingerprints months before we met. The chance meeting at the coffee shop wasn't random at all. She'd been watching me and preparing the frame-up long before. Finally, Justin traced the cashier's check Brianna used to rent her apartment. It came from a Nevada bank account opened under a fake identity 4 months before she moved in, proving just how far ahead she'd planned everything. The bank where Brianna opened the fake account had security footage, and Justin got a copy. It showed a woman with dark hair and glasses, the real Brianna, filling out forms and depositing cash. She looked completely different from the blonde version I knew, ordinary and cautious about the cameras. Gerard sent the footage to the FBI's facial recognition system, and within hours they got a match. The same woman had been linked to identity theft in 5 states over 7 years, each time using new names and looks before vanishing. The FBI concluded Brianna was a professional con artist who'd escalated to murder. Gerard explained she'd been stalking the victim for over a year and needed someone to frame, someone like me. Living alone, predictable, easy to manipulate. She spent months collecting my DNA and belongings, then built our friendship to make me the perfect scapegoat. I wasn't random, I was chosen. The realization was both horrifying and strangely relieving. The next morning, Detective Rodriguez called me in. A new witness, a woman from the victim's building, reported seeing a blonde woman with a black duffel bag the night of the murder. She identified her from photos as Brianna in disguise. That sighting proved I wasn't there. Cassandra immediately filed to have all charges against me dropped, arguing the evidence now clearly showed I'd been framed. I sat in Cassandra's office watching her file the motion to clear my name, finally feeling hopeful. But when the DA's office responded, the hope vanished. They refused to officially clear me until Brianna was caught. Cassandra argued for 20 minutes, but they wouldn't change their minds. I was stuck in limbo, not charged, but not free either. I couldn't apply for jobs or move on with my life, always fearing the DA could reopen the case. Gerard met with me again, showing photos of Brianna's many disguises and fake identities. The FBI had issued a federal warrant, but he warned me she could be anywhere. She'd planned too well and knew how to vanish. Weeks passed with no progress until Justin found a lead. One of Brianna's fake credit cards was used at a hotel 4 states away. By the time police got there, she was gone. Security footage confirmed it was her. Dark hair, new look, paying cash. Gone before sunrise. FBI analysts tracked her movements and believed she was heading west, possibly toward Mexico or Canada. Border Patrol was alerted, but Gerard warned she likely had more fake documents and could slip away. The thought of her escaping crushed me. That night, I broke down at Katie's apartment. Everything hit at once, a year of friendship that was all lies. She'd laughed with me, listened to me, comforted me while secretly planning to destroy me. I cried, screamed, and let everything out. Katie didn't try to fix it. She just held me while I finally let myself feel everything. The anger, grief, and betrayal.